for Run It Back, we always like to start with our guests kind of in their basketball origin story, for lack of a better term, and how you guys started. And we know you're from Seattle, and Seattle's been on the map for 20 years with players like Jamal Crawford, yourself, Paolo now. What kind of brand of basketball distinguishes Seattle? Is there a brand of basketball, or is there certain characteristics from what you guys bring, you Seattle guys bring to the court that's different than other regions in the United States?
I mean, we just like a jack of all trades. I mean, you have, like you said, Jamal Crawford, you have the Jason Terrys. I think a lot of times people get caught up in how athletic the guys from Seattle are. You know, you had Nate Robinson, Zach LaVine, myself. I was pretty athletic when I was, coming through college. And,
Brandon Roy,
B. Roy, Porter now, DeJounte, just guys of that nature. Martell Webster. Just we had a bunch of guys. Aaron Brooks. We had a bunch of athletic guys, quick guys. But we also had, other guys like Ronnie Stuckey, and the list goes on. I think I said Jason Terry, shooters. We had a kind of a jack of all trades area where, whatever you wanted, we had. So I think that was it was great to grow up in that and that rich basketball community, and I was blessed to be a part of it.
Now, hold on, man. Now, you just going to sit up here and name drop and just show out on us like that. All these great players from Seattle, come on, man. That's impressive. I mean, from one city, and I know, because I go way back. I'm an old school cat, and I played in Seattle, so I know the cats that have come out here. Now, let me ask you this, Peyton. If there's an open gym, okay, and you got all these great players in the gym that you just named, who getting the call, man? Who's going to get all the calls in that gym that day?
Oh, for sure, probably Jamal. He's kind of the ambassador for Seattle basketball. Him and Jet, they're probably like two staples up there. Guys who just like the OGs. I mean, you have Doug Christie, but those guys are the ones that people still young and old kind of remember, like, all right, those are the guys. And, they still hoop to this day. Like, Jamal will give you buckets in the open gym today. And those are the guys that would, get the calls. Everybody else will kind of have a little hard time because you're going to have to argue with everybody. But those are the guys who get the main calls.
And the reason why I asked that question is because, I remember growing up and playing, and even being back at Michigan State, and Magic would come back and he would just cheat, man. If he missed a shot, it was a foul, and it was just funny. But out of respect, we didn't argue because it is Magic Johnson. So I always like to ask some of the young bucks that, and especially I wanted to ask you that, being in Seattle with all the great players that you guys had.
Oh, for sure, man. It's amazing, man. The people that, I grew up going to our late night Rainier Community Center, and we had great players like Maul would play, like Brandon Roy. We had the twins, Logic and Roderick in high school, Terrence Williams, guys who didn't have the bigger names in the NBA, but just as much talent and could have been there. But it was fun just watching them grow up, and always wanted to be on that court. And then when I finally got a chance to step on that court as I got older, I had to earn my calls, stay away. But it was humbling just because, you learn the ropes from those guys, and you learn there's levels to it, and, just buys your time. But those guys are great, man. They're very tight knit, and, they look after you. So it's amazing.
How much of an impact did having the Supersonics there while you were growing up have on, not just on you, but on the community?
It was amazing, man. I would say for the basketball community, it was huge. I mean, the Sean Kemp built an outside basketball court right across the street from my house in the inner city of Seattle on Judkins, where I grew up. And I would go to that court every day. And that was where I, after school, I would go there and play, and, with my friends. And then you had Gary Payton, who would, his son played in all the, Little Leagues, CD Panthers, Rotary, and he would come to the games, and actually, seeing those guys in person, it was amazing as a as a basketball player, just because, those are guys on TV, those are guys at the top of the top. Unfortunately, they left. The Sonics moved to OKC, but for the community, the basketball community, they were very important. Yeah. Even for me as a youngster, I went to a game and I still remember to this day, Reggie Evans pointed me out in the stands and gave me a ball at the end of the game. I was just a little kid and I still have that ball. And a lot of people might not know who Reggie Evans is, but for me, no matter if I played 2K or whatever, he was on my team after that day. So that's what they kind of meant to the community. But when they had it rolling, man, it was good times in Seattle. But yeah.
Yeah. And Reggie Evans, I played with Reggie in Seattle. He was a straight dog. He one of those cat you want on your team, but you would hate to play against. He was that's the kind of that's the kind of cat he was. Let me ask you this before we move on, but because all the great tradition, all these great players that we've seen on TV, we've seen win championships. It got to be a player that didn't quite make it out, that just had game. Like who's one of those guys, one or two guys that out of Seattle had straight game, but wasn't quite as lucky. I won't say lucky. Didn't quite make it out as you thought they would.
From basketball, from when I was growing up, I would say probably Reggie Moore. He was a guy that went to O'Day and then went to Rainier Beach, which has a plethora of players. He ended up going to Washington State, but he was amazing when I grew up. He's one of the most athletic guys I ever played against. Had it all. Just didn't work out for him at Washington State, but he's doing big things with his clothes, the sky blue. But I would say him. And we were guard heavy. Him, Mark McLaughlin, another guy who I grew up with. He was a hell of a scorer. But just little names like that, and even guys who did make it but just didn't last long. Like my favorite player growing up was Marcus Williams. He went to the University of Arizona. And
nice.
I was good friends with him, and I got a chance to watch him personally every day in practice. So those are a couple guys that was just like, man, they definitely should have had a better career at that point. It's just some things didn't work out, but I'm sure there's plenty of other guys down the line that we keep naming, but those are the guys that kind of stuck out to me that I was like, damn.
So one thing stood out to me when I was doing my research for this pod on your high school numbers is you guys won a state championship your freshman year, won another state championship your senior year. You averaged 13 as a freshman and then only 18. I say only 18 in no disrespect, but only 18 as a senior. But your averages were like 18, 5, and 5 as a senior, but yet you were Mr. Basketball in the state. You were a McDonald's All-American. You were a top 30 recruit. Can you please talk to right now, give you this platform to talk to youth basketball parents right now that their kid does not have to shoot every single time to be the man and get the accolades at the end when it's all said and done?
For sure. So that came with my high school coaches, man, from Rotary program to my high school coach, Jason Kerr, who they really shaped who I became as a basketball player. They helped me understand that basketball was a team sport, the team concept. Like there was games where I could have scored 30 points or try to I had 45 against Rainier Beach when we needed to, but it was to the point where, like, for me, it was all about winning. And I knew that at a younger age that if I won, everybody's going to have success. And that's what I wanted. I wasn't the type of guy who was very selfish, who, wanted all the accolades for myself. My main thing was like, I'm trying to get everybody who's around me to college or to get looked at or anything. I wasn't the type of guy that really liked all the attention on myself. So, in my high school team, the tallest guy was probably like 6'2", 6'3". So I would play center. I would play whatever coach needed me to play. But we went out there and competed, and that was fun for me. So like you said, I would tell parents, man, coaches know if you can play or not. Like, you don't go out there and shoot 20, 30 shots and get 20 points. Like they understand that, they see that, they know it. And for me, I learned, like, no, man, if you go out there and be very efficient in what you do, they see that. And I see it now to this day. Like, if you can be efficient as a player, people understand that. And if you're winning, that just magnifies you even more. And that took me all the way to college. It's like, I don't need to go out there and try to shoot every shot, because then, you got 8, 10 other people on your team that can play also, but now you're taking away from them. And that's kind of been my mentality. And some people have different mentalities where, like, yeah, I'm the man, I'm going to shoot every time. But that's just how I felt was the right way to play basketball. And it kind of carried to me.
I want to turn that over to Mateen too, because I want his take on that, because I got 2 great point guards on the line. So I got to get point guard perspective on that. You agree? I know you agree with everything that he just said, Mateen.
100%. And when he was talking, he was talking my language. I mean, if you listen to what he was saying, he was just talking about winning. He didn't care about nothing but winning, getting everybody else involved, getting the other guys scholarships. And that's why he won in high school. That's why he won a national championship in college, because it's that mentality. Now, I like how humble he is, because if I would have had 45 in the game, I would have put some sunglasses on when I answered that question. But
well, you did notice that he did come out. He led with that first, after I kind of said like only 18. Then he led with it, and then he filled in the blanks.
Yeah, he was like, Josh, let me let you know I have 45. So I could go get 45 when I wanted to, but I just wanted to win the game. But no, I think his mentality, and I think that's what make him so great. I mean, point guards, quarterbacks, and point guards are judged on wins and losses, and that's what it's about. And just hearing him, I know I watched him from afar, but I'm not surprised that that's the mentality that he had, and not surprised why he's always had success.
So coming out of high school, McDonald's All-American, and a lot of these guys, these Seattle guys that have been mentioned already, through already in the pod, I should say, all stayed out west. You mentioned Arizona and Washington State and UW and some of those. How did you get to, 2-part question, how did you get to Louisville? And then we'll obviously we're gonna need a Rick Pitino recruiting story.
Yeah, so I gotta correct you. It's Louisville. You gotta say it like with your mouth full of food, man. It's weird when you live out here, but
I'm not too far from you. I'm in Evansville.
No.
So I'm shocked that I messed that up. And here in Evansville, it's Louisville.
Yeah. Tell the people who like actually but so Terrence Williams, who's from Seattle, came out here to Louisville, and I got a chance to watch him play. A big thing for me, I wanted to stay out west. I'm a Seattle guy. UW was a high on my list of where I want to go, because I love Romar, who's an amazing coach, who's an amazing guy, first and foremost. As a man of God, and I really appreciate that from him. But they had too many guards there. They had, Abdul Gaddy had just committed there, who was a 5-star recruit, who was a good friend of mine. They had Isaiah Thomas there, who is also from Tacoma area, who is a hell of a player in his own right, as people know.
Yeah.
They had another guy, my teammate, Benoit Overton, who was also there, who was my high school backcourt mate. And, I was looking at them, I was just like, there's just not a lot of room for me. And I think they had another guard too, but so I wanted to stay out west, but then, something kind of drew me to the East Coast, just because at the time the Big East was crazy. They had about 10 tournament teams and they were up there with the ACC and where like talent was. And at that point, they probably was ahead of them with tournament teams and everything.
Sure. Yep.
And as a West Coast kid, I kind of grew up, you kind of hear the stigmatism behind it. They're kind of soft, or they play flashy, or in this and that. And East Coast was more rugged, outside blacktop, like they're going to get after you. You got to be tough. So for me, I kind of wanted to go out there and prove myself, like, all right, if that's what I'm missing, if that's where, I want to go out and prove myself, like I've done it on the West Coast, let me go out here and show the world that I can do it, and show the country I can do it. And that was what drew me to Louisville. And plus, watching them play, I loved it, And here's a funny story also. I hated defense growing up and playing in high school. And I was getting recruited by UCLA, and the coach was Ben Holland, I think, at the time.
Holland, yeah.
And all that they were known for is just like defense. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to go there. I don't want to play defense. And watching Louisville, you see them press. You don't really see like how much defense they play because they play so fast and they get up and down the court, and their pressing is not really, it doesn't really look like defense. But, you know, I found out shortly after I got to college, that's all it really was. So, you know, that's when I chose there. But that was really why I loved the style. They were playing free. They had Edgar Sosa on that team, who I just loved. And, you know, him as a freshman was amazing. Coach P, it looked like he was just playing with so much freedom and flair, and he had that swagger about him. He's from Dykeman, New York area, and loved to watch him play. But it really drew me to Louisville. And then, you know, Rick Pitino, he just had the name and the charisma about him. I mean, you saw the white suit for white out. Everybody thought he was this mob boss. And I was just like, man, that dude looks cool to play for. And I met him. And it was a funny thing that about Coach P, is that story I tell people, that he didn't really care who you were. He treated you the same as he would treat everybody. And it kind of reminded me of my high school coach. I went in there for a recruiting trip and I had a hat on. And he was like, is it raining in here? And I was in the practice facility. I haven't committed or anything. I was just on a recruiting trip. And I was like, no, what are you talking about? He goes, is it raining? It's like, no. He goes, then why the hell don't you have a hat on? And I was like, damn. I was like, you know, coaches usually try to like kiss up the players, kind of be like, you know, this and that. And he was like, no, this is who I am. This is how I run things. Like, why are you doing that? And I was like, all right, I can kind of respect that. It was like kind of a little intimidating, but I can respect it. Like, he's not going to treat you any more special than anybody else. And I was like, all right, I like where this guy is. And, you know, just kind of went that way.
Wow. Now I know, I mean, being a McDonald's All-American, first of all, that's a big deal. And I remember getting my letter, you know, in high school in class, and my coach brought me the letter and said, I made it. I was like, I was ecstatic. So that's when you're a McDonald's All-American, that's a big deal. And so being that, I know you got recruited by a lot of other coaches. Who was one of the coaches that I would say it was hard to say no to, like let them know that you were going to go to a different school?
Romar, easily. Him and Cameron Dollar. You know, I was really close to Dollar. He was the guy that kind of recruited me to University of Washington, to the point like, look, I was a 5-10 minute drive from University of Washington from my house. So I was up there every day. I was in their open gym with them. I was at every game. I was in their student section. I was jumping up and down. Like, I was living the college life, man, college experience. And I loved that school. And I mean, you know, and they had guys like, you know, Trey Simmons, Brandon Roy, Will Conroy, Nate Robinson. All those guys were in my era growing up, where I got to actually watch them play, and they were turning it out at UW. And I was like, man, I want to be a part of that. And plus the Pac-10 at the time was, you know, crazy also. So when I had to make that call to Cam, it was hard, man. I didn't want to. I was like, I don't want to, like, I'm like a people pleaser, so I didn't want to like disappoint him. I was like, damn, man. But my coach was just like, no, you have to, you know, man up. You have to show them that respect. I mean, they put the time in with you. So that's the courtesy call. And I remember I was driving. I went to like Wendy's, and I was like in the drive-thru, and I was like, all right, and my friend was there with me. It's like, man, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. So it was hard, man. It was tough, but I made that call to him, and I told him like, hey, look, man, I'm going to commit to the University of Louisville. And Richard Pitino was recruiting me from the University of Louisville, and I called him right after that, and he was on his honeymoon. So that was a gift for him, and he answered my call, and it was probably like 2:00 in the morning, but he was happy to accept that call at that time. His wife,
damn right, it was a gift for him.